Here's Koshi.
Nat, Aussies are paying up to 50% more than Americans when we shop online. That's despite our dollar being worth more than the US currency. Consumer group Choice says the biggest price differences are for music, clothing, games bought over the internet. It's calling on the government to force American companies to offer fairer deals to us. Here, Matt Levy from Choice joins us. Matt, good morning to you. Let's have a look at what we're paying too much for. We're paying 34% more for software, 88% extra for games for Wii, and these are the worst culprits. It's extraordinary, the price difference.
Yeah, it's exactly right, Koshi. And heading into Christmas, a lot of people will be looking at those prices, thinking about buying a computer game for the kids, downloading some music online, and it's quite staggering. So just last week, for example, we saw AC/DC finally come onto iTunes. So one of the last major bands who weren't there. Unfortunately for Aussie consumers, about 54% more expensive. So if you wanted the complete Akadaka collection, about $229 in Australia. You go to the US iTunes store, $149.
See, and the other annoyingest thing is they rip us off, made big profits out of Australia, and then pay virtually no tax. Well, it was that survey last week.
Precisely right. So there's a big debate at the moment about how much tax some of these companies pay. But look, in a lot of these cases, it's the exact same product. So if you go onto an iTunes store, you're just clicking a button to go to a different part of that store. It's not like there's a local shop front, there's not trucks driving around delivering these things, there's not retail staff selling them to you.
Let's reverse it. How can we rip them off?
Look, there are, yeah, sure. And look, we're not talking about piracy here or stealing. We're talking about legitimate ways of buying cheaper products.
Well,
so
with margins like that, you feel like stealing, don't you? They're open slather.
It's one of the reasons identified. But look, it's actually possible to set up a US iTunes account. Right. That's something that some people are doing. Another way is actually setting up a US post box. So if you're dealing with a company that doesn't ship directly to Australia, there are services out there which they're like your middleman. They're a warehouse address that you enter. They ship the stuff over here for a cost. It still often ends up being cheaper. And look, one of the other things people are actually using now are things called VPNs. So it's called a virtual private network, but it's basically a way of masking your computer's location because that's the location that these international websites use to whack you with the higher dollars.
Is that the reason why when I was travelling on holidays recently, I tried to get into my iTunes iBooks to get a new book down, and it said can't access it because I was in a different country.
It reads your IP address, so your location, and that's what people often find is you log on and you see a completely different set of prices. Look, it is sneaky, but we've got some tips up there at choice.com.au for how to get around some of these ways that we think are legitimate. So we're not talking about stealing, copying, piracy. No. We're just talking about giving Australians access to the same goods at the same price that US consumers pay.
And we deserve that. They talk about us being a global village and these big computer companies say that. All right, good tips. Thank you for that. Good to see you. There you go, Mel.
Great tips.
I know, it's fabulous.
Yes.
They're big margins. That's a rip-off that we get.
I agree.
Pay those sorts of prices.
We kind of get that we're a long way away, but we're not that far anymore.
Hang on. Not when you're downloading software.
Exactly.
It doesn't come by ship.